Imagine everyone around you suddenly insisting you're dead, even while you're standing right in front of them. Here's the first one. My parents always have the same argument every night. My dad says I'm fine, but my mom insists that I'm dead. So I'm just an ordinary guy, nothing much to say about me. Like I said, there was nothing I did wrong, it was just another average day. I was just talking to my mom, we were having breakfast. Out of the blue, she just turned to me and said, "It's a shame what happened to you. You were so young. It's a shame that car hit you and you lost your life." Excuse me? I think I had drooled some milk and cereal out of my mouth. I was pretty shocked. You see, my mom is, well, she's a proper lady, old school. She's always kind, always warm, she barely yells, and she never cusses. But she also doesn't tell jokes, especially dark ones like that. So when she said that, I was completely floored. It was one of the most out-of-character things I've ever heard her say. I basically just ignored it as a weird joke and went on with my day. When I got home, she was arguing with my dad about, well, you know what. The first couple of days were really weird. We couldn't tell if she was being serious or not. She would say I'm dead, and my dad would just point at me and say something along the lines of, "That's not funny." After a bit, she'd stop, then continue the next day.
Things have escalated. She started arguing, like a lot, coming up with comments that are largely nonsensical. I've heard stories of how I've been burned to death, drowned, electrocuted, hit by car, shot and dropped in acid, apparently. I've given up on trying to convince her. Me moving around and talking to her doesn't seem to faze her. She still persists. My day-to-day has become beyond bizarre. She asks me constantly what the afterlife is like. I tell her that nothing much has changed. What the hell else am I supposed to answer? I'm not dead. I'm right in front of her, doing the same thing as ever. I just largely ignore her at this point. I know what you're thinking. Well, your mom has gone insane. Yes, I know. I thought so too. But then something happened. One day, my grandma came to visit. I love my Nan. She was just in the living room, minding her own business, eyes closed, hands clutched together. I passed her, not sure if she was asleep. She opened her eyes and I said hi to her. She just smiled and said she was praying. She's quite religious. She said she was praying for me. Cool, I guess. But then she turned to me and explained why. "I'm praying for you so that your soul can rest in peace." What? I think I froze in place for like a minute. I don't know how. I don't understand it. But my mom convinced my grandma that I'm dead. I couldn't believe it. There was a tiny chance my mom was joking, but my grandma? It wasn't possible. I should explain something. My mom kind of rules the family. She's kind, she's sweet, she's very convincing. She doesn't get the last say all the time, but when she wants something, people usually just go along with it.
I have no clue how she managed to convince my grandmother, but it's clear that something is going on. I just don't understand what. This situation, like I said, escalated. The other day, I was taking a nap in my bed. I suddenly smelled smoke. It was so alarming that I jerked myself out of bed. The burnt smell was coming from me. My mom had taken a lighter to my clothes and tried to set me on fire. "Maybe you'll pass on if you get cremated," she said. What the hell? She was smiling as she said that. This was the first instance of her trying to actually harm me. I keep my distance from her nowadays. After that incident, I went to my dad. This was going too far. She needed help. Maybe my grandma was going senile, but my mom needed help. I talked to my dad. He just looked around awkwardly. I couldn't believe it. She managed to convince my dad. Like he's starting to accept the idea that I'm actually dead. I don't know what the hell is even going on anymore. This family's breaking apart. Or it's uniting, I suppose, on the most bizarre and twisted idea I've ever heard of. Life isn't normal anymore. We went to the beach the other week. It was the last time I tried to do anything normal with my family. I fell asleep laying in my towel. When I woke up, I saw my mom above me, smiling. She had buried half of my body in the sand. I could barely move. I screamed and jolted away. The sand felt coarse against my skin and heavy to move out of. But it was right before it felt like solid stone that I squirmed free and got some distance from her. I think she was trying to bury me alive. I yelled so much at her. The whole beach was looking at us. Yelled about this sick joke, about this idea she has that I'm dead. I had enough of it. I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life before. She just looked at me, silently, a small smile on her face.
The dead shouldn't yell. Fucking hell, what have I gotten myself into? But it doesn't even stop there, it's getting worse. She managed to convince people at my school, my friends, my teachers. No one pays attention to me anymore. When I raise my hand to ask a question, the teacher ignores me. One time she said, "The dead can't ask questions." It's unreal. My friends pretend I'm not there. My family doesn't cook food for me anymore. I'm a stranger in my own home. A ghost wandering. The other day I saw her on her phone. She called me over. "Look at this, Chris." I went to check. I'm very apprehensive about her nowadays. Our relationship is basically non-existent, and it is going to stay that way until she gets medical help. It was coffins. She was looking at fucking coffins. You'll look nice in this one. I can't really express it, the feeling of a loved one casually talking about your death, of intending it. It's not right, and everyone is starting to take her side. This ordeal is taking too much of a mental toll on me. I'm getting ready to leave town and go somewhere, anywhere. I need to get out. I'm writing this to ask if anyone has encountered anything similar. I know mentally unwell people exist, but to manage to convince basically my entire family and everyone around me? Is this some kind of mass psychosis? If anyone has experienced this, please let me know. I'm packing my bags to leave. I need a break. I need to get out first. I'll fix this shit show later. I can't deal with my mom browsing what embalming fluids to use on me. I have to leave before I do something drastic. Something I'll regret. Wait. Update. I was home alone, but my parents just got home. They came in a van. I don't really understand it. We don't own a van. What the fuck? What's going on? There's like 10 people with them. What the hell is going on? What the hell is this? They're all carrying shovels, are they? I honestly don't know what to make of that one. It leaves just enough unanswered to keep you thinking. It seems fake, but never mind.
My apartment building told us not to use our peepholes after 9 p.m. The email came in that morning, which meant I read it while standing in my kitchen in one sock, waiting for my coffee machine to stop sounding like it was choking. The subject line was, "Important Resident Safety Notice." That usually meant the elevator was broken again, or someone had left chicken bones in the laundry room sink, or the landlord had discovered a new way to blame us for the mold. But this one was different. Dear residents, until notice further, please do not use your door viewer peephole after 9 p.m. If someone knocks after this time, please call the front desk. Do not visually confirm through the peephole. Thank you, the Marwick Residences. I sent a screenshot to Natalie. She replied, "Girl, what kind of Scooby-Doo ass building do you live in?" The Marwick is old in the way landlords call historic, when in reality they just want to charge more. My hallway smells like dust, carpet cleaner, and something that might have been canned soup in 1987. The elevator makes a sound like it is remembering a traumatic event every time it reaches the 4th floor, if it ever makes it there. So honestly, the peephole thing barely made the top 5. I live alone in 6C. It's my first apartment after college. 1 pan, 2 mugs, couch from Facebook Marketplace, mattress on an actual bed frame, including the exclamation points. My front door faces a long beige hallway with 5 other units and a framed sailboat print that has been crooked since I moved in. Through the peephole, the hallway bends into a little fish-eye world. Carpet, elevator, sailboat, the occasional neighbor holding takeout. I use the peephole constantly. Everyone does, right? You hear a knock, you look. That is what the peephole is for. At 9:42 that night, someone knocked. 3 taps. Soft. It didn't sound like a delivery knock, nor a friendly knock. Not even a maintenance knock. 3 carefully spaced out taps. I was on the couch eating cereal out of a measuring cup because my bowls were dirty. I paused my show and walked to the door with the spoon still in my hand. Then I remembered the email. For a second, I actually laughed. The idea of standing inside my own apartment and being afraid of a peephole felt really silly, like being warned not to look into a mirror after midnight. Another knock. 3 taps. I said, "Who is it?" No answer. I leaned closer.
Hello? Still nothing. My eye was maybe 2 inches from the peephole when my phone buzzed. Another email with the same subject line. Important residents safety notice. This one said, residents are reminded not to use their door viewers after 9 p.m. If you have already looked tonight, remain inside your unit and do not answer the door. I stared at it. Then from the other side of my door, someone whispered, "Don't worry, you haven't looked yet." I backed up so fast I hit the little table by the door and knocked my keys to the floor. I called the front desk, voicemail. I called Natalie, no answer. The knocking started again while the phone rang. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps, pause. I called 911. I don't know what happened. I might have hit the wrong thing. Maybe the building's intercom app glitched. My hands were definitely shaking too much. But the call connected to the front desk. A woman answered. "Good evening. Thank you for calling the Marwick Residences." Her voice sounded normal and bored. "There's someone outside my door," I said. "What unit?" "6C." A pause. Then she said, "Have you used your peephole tonight?" "No." "Are you sure?" "Yep." The knocking stopped. The woman exhaled. "Then don't start now," she said. "What's going on?" "Do you live alone?" I always hated that question. "Why?" "Do you live alone?" I didn't answer. There was paper shuffling on her end, like she was looking through a folder. Then she said, "Please move away from your door." "Who's out there?" "Maintenance has been notified." "At night? It's almost 10. "Please move away from your door." "What's the maintenance code?" Silence. Every work order in our building had a code. They used it for everything. Leaky sink, broken outlet, that one time a raccoon got into the trash room. Maintenance always gave the code before entering. The woman said, "Excuse me?" "The work order code," I said. "If maintenance is coming, what's the code?" Another pause. Then she hung up. That was when Natalie called me back. Before I could say anything, she said, "Are you home right now?" "Yeah." "Can you lock your bedroom door?" My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "Is your bedroom door locked?" "No. Why?" I need you to listen and try not to freak out. I got pictures from your number. I looked at my phone. Our text thread was open. The last thing I had sent her was the screenshot of the email that morning. "What pictures?" "They look really old," she said, "like from earlier today or yesterday. I don't know, they show you in your room." I turned toward my bedroom. Its door was open. The room was dark except for the streetlight bleeding through the blinds. "From my room?" My voice rose at the last word. "I know," she said. My phone buzzed. A picture came through. Me standing beside my bed in an old t-shirt folding laundry. The angle was high. I knew it immediately. It was from the vent. The picture was taken from the little square vent above my closet door, the one that rattled whenever the heat came on, the one I had complained about twice to management. In the picture, I was looking down at a skirt.
I had no idea I was being watched. The knock came again. 3 taps. I almost threw the phone. Natalie said, "Marie, don't open the door." I'm definitely not going to open the door. Don't look through the peephole either. I know. No, she said, I mean don't. I think that's how they know. I looked at the door. The peephole was just a small dark dot. Natalie said, "The pictures are old, but the texts you're sending me are live." What do you mean? Another image came through. My bedroom again. Me asleep. One arm under the pillow. Blanket kicked halfway off because my apartment is always too hot. Taken from the vent. Below the photo was a message I hadn't typed. "She's home." I stopped breathing. Outside my door, a man said, "Maintenance." His voice was calm, tired, and slightly irritated. "Ma'am, we need to come in." I said nothing. He knocked again. 3 taps. "Ma'am, I need you to look through the peephole and confirm it's me." Natalie whispered, "Please don't open it." I pressed the phone to my ear hard. It hurt. The man outside sighed. "Marie, you live alone. You need to let someone help you." I went cold. Marie isn't on my lease. It isn't the name I use for deliveries or bills or maintenance requests.
It isn't even close to my real name. It's a nickname from college. 3 people call me that, and all 3 of them know better than to say it through a locked door at night. "Marie," he repeated, "open the door." I backed away from the door. That was when I understood the warning. It wasn't because the peephole was specifically dangerous. It was because if you looked through it, whoever was outside could see the light change, or the shadow of your eye, or whatever tiny movement told them someone was standing on the other side. They weren't warning us not to open the door. They were warning us not to prove we were home. The man outside said, "We can hear you." I covered my mouth with my hand. Another man spoke from farther down the hall. "Is she looking?" The first man said, "Not yet." My phone buzzed again. Another picture. This one was not of my bedroom. It was my hallway, my door, the man outside it. He had a toolbox in one hand. Behind him stood 2 other men. One wore a dark hoodie. One had a clipboard. The clipboard bothered me the most. I don't know why. Maybe because it made the whole thing look official. I whispered, "Natalie, could you call the police?" "I did." "When?" 2 minutes ago." "How far?" "I don't know." There was another knock. 3 taps. Then the man said, "Don't make this difficult." The doorknob turned slowly, once to the left, once to the right. Then it stopped. I'd locked it with the deadbolt, too. I never loved myself more than I did in that moment. The man outside said, "Good girl," like he was pleased. Then something metal slid into the lock. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a chair, wedging it under the knob, even though I knew that mostly worked in movies. Then I dragged the little table over, then my laundry basket, then the broken floor lamp I kept meaning to throw away. The man outside said, "Marie." I didn't answer. "I know you're scared." I stayed quiet. Then he said, "You should have just looked when we knocked." The lock clicked. Not all the way, just enough. Natalie was crying now. "Marie, get out the window. I'm on the 6th floor. Fire escape. Other side of the building. Bedroom window? No." I looked toward my bedroom. The vent above the closet was dark. I had never noticed how much it looked like a mouth. My phone buzzed again. Another picture. This one was my bedroom from the vent. Empty bed, open door. And at the very bottom of the frame, just visible in the hallway mirror, the reflection of a man standing inside my apartment. I turned around. No one. Nothing. Only the hallway, only the bedroom door, only the vent. The man outside laughed softly. Then he said, through the door, "Check the closet." I am not checking the closet.
I'm sitting with my back against the kitchen cabinets, typing this with one hand while holding a knife in the other. My hand is shaking so badly that I keep hitting the wrong letters. The police are coming, I think. Natalie is still on the phone, I think. The men in the hallway have stopped knocking. A few minutes ago, something small slid under my door. A photograph. Not digital this time, but printed. I haven't touched it, but I can see it from here. It's a picture of me sitting exactly where I am sitting now, back against the cabinets, phone in one hand, knife in the other. The angle is from above, from the kitchen vent. I picked it up. On the back, written in black marker, are 6 words. You locked him in with you.
I thought my wife was cheating on me. It's worse. So much worse. It all started 6 months ago. I asked why she kept coming home so late. She told me her company was busier than ever. I was a little relieved at first. So many companies nowadays are looking for reasons to fire you, replace you with an AI chatbot. At least for now, it looked like her job was safe. For the next few months, she came and went as she pleased. Then came the calls. Her phone kept ringing at all hours of the day. Last week, she was in the shower when her phone rang. I picked it up. No one answered. All I heard was static and the sound of someone breathing down the line. She again denied it, saying it must have been a cold caller. Even cold callers don't phone at 1 a.m. Finally, I had enough. It was time to follow her, catch her in the act. I had to know what she was doing. This morning, I left early, rented a different car, and stalked my wife. First, she went to the office. I breathed a sigh of relief when her car pulled into the parking lot. At least she wasn't lying about going to her job. From the road, I could see her desk. I watched all day, just to make sure her bosses or co-workers weren't sticking the company pen inside her. Now, if you think working on a computer all day is boring, try watching someone work all day. Becky barely moved from her desk, even ate lunch there. Jesus, no wonder she is coming home late. If this were my day, I would be hitting every bar on the way home. Anything for a bit of excitement. Finally, 5 p.m. came. My heart sank when she left on time. As she got into her car, I got a message. Working late, won't be home until after 8. XXX. I almost busted her right there, but I knew she would just make up some excuse. I had to catch her with no way for her to lie her way out of it.
She started the car and drove to the old part of town. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She went into the street where I grew up. My mind was racing. Where was she going to stop? Was one of my old friends seeing my wife? Which one of their houses was she going to stop at? Her car finally pulled into St. James's parking lot. St. James? I used to hate that church. My mother made me go every week. I thought it was still closed. Guess someone must have reopened it. I still remember the day it shut. Pastor Greg clutching his chest and falling to the ground. My mother telling me God needed him in heaven. I can still feel the sting on my face when I told her I don't think he is going to heaven. My wife got out of the car and greeted a group at the door. Why would she lie to me about going to church? I wouldn't have stopped her from going. Sure, I gave up on religion years ago, but I wouldn't have cared. Might have even joined her. My mind was racing. 6 months ago, out of the blue, she suddenly stopped drinking. Did something happen to her? Was she going to some kind of AA meeting? She always liked drinking, but I never thought she was an alcoholic. Shit, I have to go in. I need to know what she is doing. Everyone was walking through the giant wooden front door. No way I could use it. Someone might recognize I'm her husband. I started chuckling to myself. Guess Mom was right. One day I would be glad I went to Sunday school. Pastor Greg made us use a different door around the back that led to his office. His office led to the main hall. I slipped around the back and slowly opened the door to my old pastor's office. His once perfect office was a mess. Glass was on the floor, dust everywhere, graffiti on the wall. No one had used it since the day he died. The sound of church hymns rang out in the distance. Is she in a choir? Why would she lie about this? I quietly slipped out of the office and walked up the steps to the second floor. It gave me a perfect view of the main hall. 100 people were singing below. The song was one I had never heard before. Gregorian-style chanting hung in the air, dancing across the walls of a church. Chills went down my spine. I had never seen anyone sing like this before.
When the singing stopped, I took a good look at everyone below. Everyone was wearing long black robes. My eyes almost burst out of my head when I saw a giant pentagram in the center of the hall. Holy shit, she joined a cult. Christ! My wife stepped towards the pentagram, holding a small puppy. Couldn't be sure from the distance, but it looked like a golden retriever. I told her years ago I always wanted a golden retriever. Was I about to be getting some cult dog to look after? Why couldn't she just be cheating on me? Becky looked at the members and held the dog high with one hand. They all cheered as she raised it. It was a beautiful little dog, its eyes darting all across the room, trying to curl itself up into a little ball. Its fear was soon taken away. My wife took a knife from her belt and slit the dog's throat. The noise it made was indescribable. I almost gave away my hiding spot as she threw it in the center of the pentagram. The singing started again, only this time louder. The dog's body started thrashing, mutating into a creature more foul than I had ever seen. When the creature shrieked, the crowd cheered. My wife knelt down in front of it as it rose onto its legs and spoke in a deep, echoing voice. "There is an unsinned among us." Gasps went around the church. Everyone started looking in different directions. The creature's eyes met mine. I couldn't breathe as it lifted one of its arms and pointed to me. "There is the unsinned." I dove down and ran faster than I had moved before, jumping down the steps back into the office, sprinting out the back of the church to the car. The tires screamed as I hit the gas, breaking every speeding law I could on the way home. My mind raced. Fuck! What has she gotten herself into? I dumped my car in the drive and went straight to the gun safe, pulling out the rifle and pistol. A message flashed up on my phone. "Be home soon, XXX." "Fuck," I shouted, flying down the stairs. I went to the fridge and pulled out the emergency six-pack. Cracking a can, I drank it as fast as I could. Moving into the front room, I took a chair and placed it by the door. Checking my guns were loaded, I took a seat and slammed back another can. I am now waiting for her to return. I don't know what I'm going to do when she walks in. Fuck, what did she bring into this world? The demon? The devil? The Antichrist?
If your delivery driver says he forgot your drink, don't open the door again. I know how stupid this sounds because I used to read posts like this and think the same thing. Just don't open the door. Just call the police. Just get out. You never realize how useless all those thoughts are until you're standing barefoot in your hallway at midnight, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and your phone in the other, listening to someone breathe on the other side of your front door. It started with Thai food. I had just moved into my new apartment 3 weeks earlier. Nothing dramatic, no haunted backstory, no weird old building with a caretaker who warned me about the basement, just a normal second-floor apartment above a row of shops, the kind of place where the hallway always smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and someone else's dinner. I'd moved there after my breakup with Lewis. We had been together 4 years. He wasn't dangerous or evil or anything like that. He was just useless in that quiet, exhausting way that makes you feel like you are raising a grown man. When he finally left, I felt sad for about a week and then mostly relieved. For the first time in a long time, the place was mine. My mugs in the cupboard, my clothes in the wardrobe, my music playing without him asking if we could put something else on.
That night, I got home late from work. It had been raining all day, and my shoes were soaked through. I didn't have the energy to cook, so I ordered from the Thai place down the road. Green curry, jasmine rice, spring rolls, and a Diet Coke. The app said 25 minutes. I changed into pajamas, washed my face, and sat on the sofa scrolling through my phone. I remember feeling almost peaceful. That's the part that bothers me now. How normal it all was. How close I came to having an ordinary, boring night. At 10:43, my buzzer went. I pressed the intercom. Hello? Delivery. His voice was soft, youngish, maybe. Hard to tell through the speaker. Second floor, flat 6. I know, he said.
I frowned at that, but only for a second. Drivers get the flat number on the app. Obviously, he knew. I buzzed him in and waited by the door. A minute later, there was a knock. When I opened it, he was standing too close. That was the first thing I noticed. Most delivery drivers step back after knocking. This one was right there, almost filling the doorway. He wore a black raincoat with the hood up and one of those thermal delivery bags over his shoulder. I couldn't see much of his face, just his mouth and a bit of stubble. "Aaron?" he asked. "That's me." He handed me the bag. "Enjoy your food." "Thanks." I took it and was about to close the door when he said, "Sorry, I forgot your drink." I looked into the bag. Curry, rice, spring rolls, no Diet Coke. "It's fine," I said. "Don't worry about it. I'll bring it up." Before I could answer, he turned and walked away. I closed the door and locked it. I don't know why I locked it so quickly. Maybe because he'd stood too close. Maybe because he had said my name like he already knew me. Maybe because I live alone now, and living alone changes the sound of every small thing. I put the food on the coffee table and tried to shake it off. The curry was hot, the rice was still steaming, and for a few minutes I convinced myself I was being ridiculous. Then I found the receipt. It was folded under the spring rolls. Not the restaurant receipt. That was stapled to the outside of the bag. This was a plain white slip of paper, torn badly at one edge. At first, I thought it was just some kitchen note that had fallen in by accident. Then I saw my name. Aaron M., flat 6, lives alone, no dog, chain lock only. Bedroom window faces service alley, usually home after 7. I stared at it for a long time. My first thought was Lewis. It had to be Lewis. Some pathetic attempt to scare me, to make me call him, to make me feel like I still needed someone. It sounded exactly like the sort of thing he would think was clever after a few drinks. I picked up my phone and called him. He answered on the 5th ring. "What?"
Don't play dumb. Did you send someone to my flat? There was a pause, then a tired sigh. Aaron, it's nearly 11. I got a note in my takeaway. What note? A one that says I live alone. Another pause. This one felt different. Are you serious? Yes. Where are you? In my flat, obviously. Lock your door. It is locked. No, properly lock it. That annoyed me, even then, like he was suddenly the sensible one. I have locked it. Send me a picture. I almost told him to piss off, but I took a photo of the note and sent it. He called back 10 seconds later. That wasn't me. His voice had changed. He sounded awake now. Lewis? I swear on my mother, that wasn't me. Call the police. Before I could answer, someone knocked on my door. 3 soft knocks. Not loud, not aggressive, just polite. I stood in the middle of my living room with the phone against my ear. "Aaron?" Lewis said. Another knock. Then the delivery driver's voice. "Forgot your drink." I didn't move. Lewis kept saying my name, but he sounded far away. The delivery driver knocked again. "I can leave it here if you want." I walked slowly to the door and looked through the peephole.
The hallway was empty. No delivery driver. No drink. Nothing. I stepped back. My phone buzzed in my hand. A notification from the delivery app. Your driver is at your door. I looked at the peephole again. Empty hallway. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I don't know why I answered. I think my brain was still trying to make sense of it, still trying to turn it into something normal. Hello? The delivery driver said, "You shouldn't have looked at the receipt." I couldn't speak. "You were meant to eat first," he said. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and the call stayed connected. I could hear his breathing through the speaker. Then the handle moved. Slowly. Down, then up. Down, then up. I had locked the door, but he was testing it gently, like he didn't want to make too much noise. I picked up the phone and ended the call. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries. Then I called 999. The operator asked what service I needed. "Police," I whispered. "What's happening?"
There's someone outside my flat. Are you in immediate danger? Yes, I think so. Is your door locked? Yes. Can you see the person? I looked through the peephole again. Empty hallway. No, I said, but he's there. As soon as I said it, the letterbox lifted. Just a little. A black gap opened near my knees. I stumbled back. The operator asked me what had happened. He opened the letterbox. "Do not approach the door," she said. "Go into a room with a lock if you can." My bathroom had a lock. It was cheap and flimsy, but it was something. I grabbed the biggest knife from the kitchen drawer and backed toward the bathroom. The letterbox clicked shut. Then the knocking started again. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. "Aaron," he called. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the edge of the bath with the knife on my lap. The operator kept talking to me, calm and steady, asking questions I could barely answer. My address, my name, whether I had seen a weapon, whether there was another way into the flat. "No," I said, "just the front door." Then I remembered the note. "Bedroom window faces service alley." My bedroom window. The one I had opened earlier because the flat smelled of paint and damp clothes. I stood so fast the knife clattered into the bath. "What is it?" the operator asked. "My bedroom window. Is someone trying to get in?" "I don't know." "Stay where you are if the bathroom door locks." The problem was, from the bathroom, I couldn't see the bedroom. I couldn't see the hallway. I couldn't see anything. The flat went quiet. That was worse than the knocking. For a few seconds, all I could hear was the operator breathing through my phone and my own heart hammering in my ears. Then my bedroom door creaked. I had left it open. I knew I had, but I heard it creak. The sound was slow and careful, the sound of someone touching the door with their fingertips and pushing it wider. "He's inside," I whispered. The operator said police were close. Close didn't mean inside the flat. Close didn't mean between me and him. A floorboard moved in the hallway. Then another. He was walking toward the bathroom. I picked the knife back up and stood behind the door. My legs felt weak. I remember thinking I was going to die in pajamas, which is a stupid thing to think, but it was there in my head. I was going to die barefoot in old pajamas with Thai food cooling on the coffee table. The bathroom handle dipped. Once. Twice. Then his voice came through the door. "You should have taken the drink." I covered my mouth with my hand. He laughed quietly. "I'm not angry," he said. "You just made it messy." The door moved in the frame as he pressed his shoulder against it. The bathroom lock was a tiny silver turn lock, the kind you use when someone might accidentally walk in while you're brushing your teeth.
It was never meant to keep anyone out. He pressed again. Wood cracked near the latch. The operator was saying something. I couldn't understand her. Then there was a bang downstairs. A voice shouted, "Police!" The pressure left the door. For 1 second, I thought he had run. Then the bathroom door burst open. He came through with his hood still up and a screwdriver in his right hand. I swung the knife without thinking. It caught his arm. He shouted and slammed into me, knocking me back against the sink hard enough to crack the mirror. I dropped the knife. He grabbed my wrist and squeezed so hard my fingers went numb. "Stupid," he said. That was all he got out. 2 officers came down the hallway shouting. One of them hit him from the side and they both went into the bath. The other officer pulled me out into the hallway and kept saying, "You're safe, you're safe, you're safe," even though I didn't feel safe. I don't think I have felt safe since. They arrested him in my bathroom. His name was Daniel Price, at least that was the name he gave them. He wasn't the delivery driver assigned to my order. The real driver was a woman named Melissa who had been found in her car 3 streets away, unconscious but alive. Someone had hit her from behind after she collected my food. Daniel had taken her phone, her thermal bag, and her jacket. That would have been bad enough. Then they searched his car. They found printed receipts. Dozens of them, maybe more. Names, addresses, notes. Some were crossed out. Some had ticks next to them. Mine had a circle around it. The police wouldn't tell me much. They never do. They kept using words like ongoing investigation and potential link and recovered items. But one officer told me something by accident. He said the others were lucky too. Then he stopped talking. Others. I stayed with Lewis that night, which tells you how scared I was. I sat on his sofa until morning and watched the rain run down the window. He made tea and kept apologizing for things that had nothing to do with him. By midday, I had convinced myself it was over. Daniel was arrested. Melissa was alive. The police had the receipts. The locks were being changed. I would move again if I had to. Then my phone buzzed. A notification from the delivery app. I stared at it, confused, because I had deleted the app in the police station. I had watched it disappear from my screen. But there it was. Your driver is nearby. I opened the notification. The map showed a little bike icon moving down Lewis's street. I stood up so quickly I spilled tea over my leg. Lewis asked what was wrong. The bike icon stopped outside his house. Then the doorbell rang. Lewis went pale. "No," I said. "Don't." He walked to the front window and looked through the curtain. "There's no one there," he said. My phone buzzed again. "Your driver is at your door." Then another message appeared. "Forgot your drink." That was 3 days ago. I'm writing this from a hotel room under a name that isn't mine. The police have my phone now. They said there was no active order, no driver, no record of any notification being sent. But I saw it. Lewis saw the doorbell camera too. Empty porch, no one there. Just 3 knocks recorded by the audio. 3 soft knocks. Pause. 3 soft knocks. Pause. I don't know whether Daniel had someone working with him. I don't know whether he set something up before they arrested him. I don't know why the app keeps coming back on every phone I borrow, or why the notifications know where I am before I tell anyone. All I know is this. If you order food late at night and the driver says he forgot your drink, tell him to leave it outside. Do not open the door. Do not check the hallway. Do not believe the peephole. And if your phone says the driver is nearby after you've already deleted the app, get out before he knocks. Because last night at 10:43, someone slipped a receipt under my hotel room door. It had my fake name on it, my room number. No dog. Traveling alone. Bathroom lock weak.
At the bottom, written in pen, there were 4 words. You still seem thirsty.
This all started yesterday morning. My 2 friends and I planned a 3-day backpacking trip deep into an ancient protected forest region. We wanted to get far away from the city, lose cell service, and just hike. We drove for 6 hours until the paved roads turned to gravel, and the gravel turned to dirt. We parked at the main trailhead, which was located right next to a small wooden ranger station. A ranger stepped out of the building as we were strapping on our packs. He was an older man, wearing a pristine green uniform and a wide-brimmed hat. He smiled, walked over to us, and asked to see our backcountry permits. We handed them over. He reviewed the paperwork, checked our names against a clipboard, and handed them back. "You boys have a solid route planned," the ranger said, pointing to the trail map my oldest friend was holding. "You are heading into the oldest sector of the park. The canopy gets incredibly dense up there. You will lose the sun early, so make sure you pitch your tents before late afternoon." "We brought headlamps," my oldest friend replied. "We plan to push pretty far in today." The ranger nodded, but his expression grew serious. He folded his hands and leaned against the wooden railing of the station porch. "I need to give you the primary rule for this specific sector," the ranger said. His tone was entirely professional, but very strict. "As you get deeper into the valley, you are going to see a specific type of tree. They are massive and have entirely black bark. They look like they have been scorched by fire, but are completely natural. They are an endangered species of flora and incredibly fragile. We will not mess with them," I told him. "I need to be very clear," the ranger continued, looking each of us directly in the eyes. "Never use an axe on the black-barked trees. Never cut them, never carve your initials into them, and never try to harvest them for firewood. If you need to build a campfire, gather dead wood from the ground only. Do you all understand?" "Of course," my other friend said. "We respect the park rules. Deadwood from the ground only. We will not touch the black trees." "Good," the ranger said, smiling again. "Have a safe hike, boys." We left the trailhead and walked into the woods. The hike was challenging. The elevation gain was steep, and the terrain was covered in thick roots and loose rocks. The deeper we walked into the forest, the older the environment felt. The trees grew wider, and the branches overhead interlocked, blocking out the blue sky. Around noon, we saw the first black-barked tree. The ranger had not exaggerated. The tree was gigantic. The trunk was easily 10 feet wide, and the bark was a deep, matte black. It stood out completely against the brown and green colors of the surrounding forest. As we pushed deeper into the valley, we saw more of them, scattered among the normal pines and oaks like dark pillars. We hiked for another 4 hours. We were exhausted, sweating, and ready to stop for the day. We found a flat clearing near a small creek and decided to make camp. As we were unrolling our tents, the weather shifted. The temperature dropped sharply. Dark gray clouds rolled over the canopy, and a sudden, violent rainstorm began. So the water came down in heavy sheets, soaking us to the bone within seconds. We scrambled to get the tents up. We threw our gear inside and huddled in the nylon shelters, shivering in our wet clothes. The storm lasted for 2 hours. It battered the tents and turned the campsite into a muddy swamp. When the rain finally stopped, the sun was already setting. The forest plunged into a dark, freezing twilight. We crawled out of the tents. Our teeth were chattering. The temperature was dropping fast, and we were completely soaked. We knew we needed a fire immediately to dry our clothes and prevent hypothermia. "Spread out and find dead wood," my oldest friend instructed, his voice shaking from the cold. "Look for anything dry under the bushes." We spent 20 minutes searching the area around the campsite. It was useless. The storm had saturated everything. Every branch on the ground was soaked through, crumbling into wet mush when we tried to snap it. My other friend walked back to the center of the camp holding a small camping hatchet. He looked angry and completely miserable. "There is nothing dry on the ground," he said, gripping the hatchet tightly. "Everything is completely waterlogged. We are not going to get a fire started with wet bark." "We have to keep looking," I told him. "Maybe under the rock overhang near the creek." "No," he snapped, pointing the hatchet toward the edge of the clearing. "I am freezing. We need dry wood from the inside of a trunk." He pointed directly at a massive black-barked tree standing just 10 yards away from our tents. "The ranger specifically told us not to touch those trees," I argued, stepping in front of him. "He said they are an endangered species. You will get us a massive fine." "I do not care about a fine," my friend argued back, pushing past me. "I care about not freezing to death tonight. The tree is huge. Taking one chunk out of the side is not going to kill it, and the wood inside will be completely dry. I'm doing it." I tried to grab his shoulder, but he shook me off. He walked right up to the massive black trunk and raised the hatchet high above his shoulder and swung it forward with all his strength. The steel blade bit deeply into the black bark.
My friend grunted, pulling the hatchet handle downward to pry the wood loose. The blade popped free. Thick red blood poured from the cut. It was a deep, dark crimson liquid. It spilled out of the gash in the bark, running down the black trunk and pooling on the exposed roots. The metallic smell of copper instantly filled the air. My friend dropped the hatchet into the mud. He backed away, staring at his hands, which were now speckled with red drops.
"What did you do?"
my oldest friend whispered, stepping backward. The forest changed immediately. The sounds of the woods completely vanished. The crickets stopped chirping. The frogs in the creek stopped croaking. The wind died down entirely. The silence was absolute, pressing against my ears. A loud rustling noise broke the silence. It came from the canopy directly above the bleeding tree. We looked up. Something dropped from the high branches. It landed on the ground with a heavy, sickening thud, crouching low on the muddy roots. It was a creature that defied any natural biology. The lower half of its body resembled a deer, with backwards bending joints, coarse brown fur, and sharp split hooves. But the upper half was entirely different. The torso was stretched, pale and hairless, resembling a starving human. The arms were incredibly long, ending in hands with elongated, multi-jointed fingers. The head was the worst part. It possessed a massive, sprawling rack of jagged antlers, but the face was a blank slab of pale skin. It had no eyes. It had no nose. The only feature on its face was a wide, vertical slit that opened to reveal rows of flat, grinding teeth. The creature stood up. It towered over us, standing at least 8 feet tall. It turned its blank face toward the bleeding black tree trunk. It reached out with a long hand and touched the red liquid. It tilted its head back and released a sound. It sounded like a distorted, grating siren, full of pure rage. "Run!" I shouted. We scattered in 3 different directions. Panic completely took over my mind. I sprinted into the dark brush, pushing blindly through thorn bushes and low-hanging branches. I heard the crashing sound of the creature charging behind me. I dove behind a large moss-covered boulder and dropped to the ground, pressing my face into the wet dirt. I held my breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I looked through the ferns. My oldest friend was running about 50 yards to my left. He tripped over a root and fell hard onto his hands and knees. The creature was standing in the center of the clearing. When my friend fell, his hand snapped a dry branch on the ground. The creature's head instantly snapped toward the exact direction of the sound.
It locked onto the noise, then dropped onto all fours and launched itself toward my friend with terrifying speed. My friend scrambled to his feet and ran deeper into the woods, leading the creature away from my position. I knew I could not run. The forest floor was wet leaves and snapping twigs. If I tried to move through the brush, the creature would hear me and hunt me down. I needed a place to hide. I looked back at the campsite. The bleeding black tree was still standing there. I noticed a massive dark opening at the base of the trunk, hidden between two sprawling roots. The center of the tree was hollow. I crawled on my stomach, moving agonizingly slow to avoid making any noise. I crossed the mud, reached the roots, and squeezed my body into the hollow opening of the black trunk. The inside of the tree was pitch black. The air smelled intensely of dried blood and old dirt. The space was tight, barely large enough for me to sit cross-legged. I leaned my back against the curved wooden wall. As I shifted my weight, my hands brushed against something cold and metal resting on the dirt floor.
I pulled my hands back. I sat completely still for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of the creature crashing through the woods. It was far away, chasing my friend. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I turned the flashlight setting on and immediately covered the lens with my fingers, letting only a tiny sliver of light escape into the hollow space. I pointed the dim light at the floor between my boots. Resting in the dirt was a hunting knife. The blade was heavily rusted, and the wooden handle was wrapped in decaying leather. I carefully picked it up. Carved deeply into the bottom of the wooden handle were 3 letters. Initials. I recognized the initials immediately. They matched the name tag the ranger wore on his uniform at the trailhead. I pointed the sliver of light back down at the dirt. Underneath the spot where the knife had been resting, a round, white object was partially buried in the soil. I used my free hand to brush the loose dirt away. It was a human skull. The bone was stained brown from the earth. I stared at it in horror. I noticed a massive, straight crack running directly down the center of the forehead. The bone had been completely cleaved open. I held the rusted hunting knife up to the skull. I aligned the blade with the crack. The width and thickness of the blade perfectly matched the damage to the bone. I heard a loud crunching sound outside the tree. A hoof stepped onto the roots. The creature had returned. I immediately turned off my phone light and plunged back into darkness. I clamped both of my hands tightly over my mouth and nose to muffle the sound of my own breathing, then squeezed my eyes shut. The creature paced slowly around the outside of the trunk. I could hear its hooves scraping against the mud, and it sniffing the air, the wet, rasping sound of its breath echoing in the quiet forest. It stopped pacing, then stood directly in front of the hollow opening. I waited for it to reach inside and grab me. Instead, the creature spoke. It used human words, but the voice was wrong. It sounded like multiple voices layered over one another, speaking in a raspy, stolen tone. "He fills the roots with the broken ones," the creature spoke. The voice vibrated through the wood of the tree. "He digs the hollows, leaves the meat for the dirt, and hides his sins inside my skin." I kept my hands clamped over my mouth. Tears stung my eyes. I was listening to the monster talk to itself. "He tells the travelers to leave the black bark alone,"
The creature continued, its voice dripping with hatred. He knows the rule. He knows if the bark bleeds, I must protect the grove and hunt the ones who spill the sap. He uses my anger to guard his graves, to make me the killer of the curious. The creature scraped its hooves angrily against the dirt. I cannot leave the shadows.
It whispered, I cannot walk the path to his wooden house. He wears the carved bones, the wards on his chest. The dead cannot touch him. I cannot see him. He is safe from the teeth while he fills my trees with his rot. I sat in the dark. I knew I could not stay in the tree forever. I had no food, no water, and my friends were either dead or lost in the woods. If I tried to run, the blind creature would hear me and kill me. There was only one option. I slowly pulled my hands away from my mouth and took a deep breath. I can stop him, I said aloud. The creature instantly stopped moving. The silence returned. I slowly crawled forward. I pushed my head and shoulders out of the hollow opening, then stood up in the mud, keeping my hands empty and raised in the air. The creature was standing right in front of me. It was towering, its blank face angled slightly downward, listening to my exact position. I found the skull, I said, keeping my voice steady though my entire body was shaking. I found his knife. I know what the ranger is doing to you. I know he uses you to hide his murders. The creature did not move. It breathed slowly. If you kill me, his secret stays hidden, I told the creature. He will keep bringing bodies here and will keep using your trees. But if you let me walk away, I will take the evidence. I will take it to the people who can arrest him so we can bring him to justice and he will never bury another body in your grove again. The creature took a step closer. The massive antlers blotted out the moonlight above. It leaned its face down until it was inches from my own. I could smell the earth on its breath. It slowly opened its mouth. The vertical slit parted, and the jaw unhinged, stretching incredibly wide. The throat opened into a dark, massive cavern. I looked inside the mouth, and I saw them. The faces of the dead. Pale, translucent human faces were embedded in the dark tissue of the creature's throat. The faces opened their mouths, and they spoke to me in unison. The Green Man keeps a record, the faces whispered, their voices echoing directly into my mind. He keeps a book of names. He keeps the rings from our fingers and the plastic cards with our pictures. Where? I asked the faces. Where does he keep them? In his wooden house, the faces replied. Under the floor. The third wooden board from the iron stove. The board is loose. The box is metal. Take the book. Take the rings. Show the world his sins. The creature closed its mouth. The vertical slit sealed shut, hiding the faces in the dark. It took a step backward, then turned around, walking slowly away from the bleeding tree, disappearing into the dark canopy of the forest. It was letting me go. It had accepted the deal. I dropped to my knees. I reached into the hollow trunk and grabbed the rusted hunting knife and the fractured human skull. I unzipped my backpack and placed both items securely inside.
I stood up and began walking through the woods. I walked carefully, placing my feet softly on the ground. I found my friends an hour later. They were hiding together inside a deep rocky ravine near the creek. They had stayed completely silent, which is why the creature had not found them. They were terrified and shivering, but they were unharmed. I told them we had to leave immediately. I did not explain the deal I had made. I just told them the creature was gone and we had to hike back to the car.
We walked through the forest all night. We navigated by the moonlight and the compass on my phone. We reached the trailhead just as the sun was starting to rise. The small wooden ranger station was dark and empty. We threw our gear into the trunk of our car and drove away from the state park as fast as the gravel roads would allow. We reached the nearest town about an hour later. It was a small, quiet place with a single main street. I parked the car directly in front of the local police station. "I'm going in," I told my friends, grabbing my backpack from the floorboard. "I have evidence for murders. I'm going to tell them everything." I walked up the concrete steps to the glass double doors of the police station. I reached for the handle, but I stopped. I looked through the glass into the lobby. The ranger was standing inside. He was wearing his pristine green uniform, holding a cup of coffee, and he was laughing loudly. Sitting around the front desk were the local sheriff and 3 deputies. They were all drinking coffee, smiling and joking with the ranger. I looked closer. Hanging around the ranger's neck was a small carved piece of white bone tied to a leather string. It was the ward, the charm that protected him from the creature and the dead. I looked at the sheriff. He was wearing the exact same carved bone charm around his neck. I looked at the 3 deputies. Every single one of them had a carved bone charm resting against their uniform shirts. My blood ran completely cold. I backed away from the glass door, then turned around, walked down the steps, and got back into my car. "Drive," I told my oldest friend, who was sitting in the driver's seat. "Just drive out of this town right now." We have been driving for 2 hours. We are currently parked outside a diner near the interstate. I am holding the backpack on my lap. The skull and the rusted knife are sitting inside. I know exactly where the ledger and the trophies are hidden in the ranger's house, under the 3rd floorboard by the iron stove. The evidence is all there, waiting to be collected. But I cannot take this to the local cops. If I walk into that station, they will see the skull, they will see the knife, and they will arrest me. Or worse, they will just drive me back out to the black bark trees and finish the job themselves. The blind creature kept its end of the deal, so I have to keep my end of the deal. Please, if anyone reading this has the authority to help, tell me what my next step should be.